go to the question from John. Has to do with Pharaoh's heart being hardened. Why did God keep hardening Pharaoh's heart in Exodus?
To glorify, to show his power, and to make a point. It's his way of underlining, and so it ultimately ends up serving his purposes.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, as we were looking at that question, I realized that back when I went through the book of Exodus, looking at that, you recognize that actually there's a process that doesn't take place until almost the end of all the plagues. When you see what takes place, you see in chapter 7 the first plague, where the Nile is turned into blood, and it says, "And the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hard." In other words, he's acknowledging the hardness of Pharaoh's heart. God didn't make it hard. Pharaoh's heart, he was hardening his heart. By the time you get a couple chapters later, after the lice, it says, "And Pharaoh's heart grew hard." So the hardness was within Pharaoh. And then you get to, where is it, after the ninth plague. You have in verse 27 of chapter 10, it says, "But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart." That's the point at which God fixes them, or fixed him in the position. And you know, there's a parallel here that we can take in the sense that people speak about, how can a God of love send someone to hell or judge them? Well, the truth of the matter is, he doesn't send anyone there. They choose it. And God just fixes them in that place.
They reject the provision he's given them to avoid it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And the same thing is the example of Pharaoh is a frightening example, but it's consistent with the doctrine in the New Testament, Romans chapter 1, that you can deny the work of God, even in creation, chapter 1 of Romans, to a point to where God finally gives you over to a reprobate mind where you cannot believe. You believe the lie. And this sense of the heart being hardened, fixed. I used to, when people would ask me about, is that something that's fair? And I said, well, let's put it this way. If you spend an entire lifetime not wanting God in your life, why would God want to spend eternity with you in his life?
Well, that's pretty rough.